Hey guys, Christine Morel here. I just wanted to make this video because I always get contacted by people and they talk about how hard it is to stay motivated as they're trying to build their independent music career. And they talk about how, they get discouraged and let down and, feel like maybe they're working so hard and they're never going to see results and that sort of thing. And um, I just wanted to share kind of some candid thoughts. I don't have like any agenda here. I'm just going to kind of speak from my heart right now. When I first started doing music, I was struggling for almost 10 years. I barely made any money. I slept on friends' couches. I've slept in my car. I've shared stories about how I've actually bathed in gas stations. And when I moved to LA from Vegas, I was already, I don't know, probably 8 years into living like this. I was $20,000 in credit card debt. I didn't have any gigs. I was barely making any money. And I also refused to get another job. I had decided that I was just going to do music and, that was it for me. But as you can imagine, with all of these circumstances, I felt very, very discouraged. I mean, I really felt like I remember times I would sleep until 2 o'clock p.m. because it was so hard to get out of bed because I hated my reality. I hated what my life had become and what it was. And I was drinking too much. I'm a 110-pound small petite female, and sometimes I'd have 10, 11 drinks a day. I was dealing with just being depressed about my dream. I really wanted to do music. I knew that that was all that I wanted to do. And I knew that nothing could take that place. There was no amount of money that anyone could offer me to do anything else. There was just no convincing me. I had decided when I was a little girl that that was the one thing that I wanted to do. And, that may be the story for some of you that are watching right now. That nothing makes you happier. But it's hard sometimes to stay encouraged. And at that time, when I moved to LA, I had um, again run out of money. I was in tons of debt, and if you know about LA, it's very, very expensive to live there. And I just didn't really know what I was going to do. And I went on Craigslist, and I found someone that was renting a an apartment, and they were renting the apartment. I'm sorry, not their apartment. They're renting their kitchen. So they had their kitchen for rent. And it wasn't like their whole kitchen, it was a little corner in their kitchen that they had said that they would rent to me. And I rented it out. I didn't have like a full wall. I kind of had this little like thing that kind of separated me from anyone that was making breakfast or anything that was making dinner. So it's just kind of this like semi like 3/4 of a wall. I had a little cot, and I had a bunch of like buckets with my clothing and stuff like that in there. I didn't really have much privacy. Of course, if anyone was cooking in the kitchen, I could hear everything. And there was a parrot, this annoying, loud ass parrot that was in the kitchen as well, that would just, you know, scream all night and it would repeat anything that you said. So if someone said, hey, good morning, Christine, it'd be like, good morning, Christine, and I'm, asleep in my bed, just being depressed and trying to, figure my life out. And it was even more depressing because for me, I thought, man, here I am, um, almost mid 20s and living in someone's kitchen. I had no money, I had nothing. I would go on, Craigslist and take like random gigs. Sometimes I'd be like passing out flyers for a company or just doing something random, getting paid $50 here, $100 here, whatever it was, just because I didn't want to take a regular job and I just wanted to do music. But I was absolutely depressed. I was drinking a lot. That was like my way of escaping my reality. And then the next day I would be hungover and my whole day would be wasted because I'd be feeling so terrible and I couldn't get anything done. And I just had no idea where to even start. And I think I'm sharing this because I know that a lot of other people are in that same position right now. And I know that some of you have watched me, and if you don't know me, I have a really wonderful career now. I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled many continents and done as much as 300 or more shows, paid shows a year. And I make a great living doing music now. But it took me like 10 years to really dial it in and figure it out. And what I want to share with you guys is, as you go through your journey, as you go through your struggle, what really helped me get through all this was my perspective. It wasn't my circumstances, because if you're always waiting for your external circumstances to make you happy, your external circumstances are going to go like this. Even in my life now, even though I have a great career and I travel and do a bunch of cool stuff and I release music, it still does this. There's always things going on in my life. And the perspective that really helped me get through it all was to go, hey, you know what? This is part of my story. And this is part of what's going to make my story interesting. And when I become successful and when people are singing the words to my songs, I can tell them these stories just like I'm telling you right now. And I thought, every great biography, every great autobiography never went like this. They were born, they had lots of money, they got lucky, they got discovered, now they're famous, and their whole life was perfect. That's not a very interesting movie, and it never ever happens like that. Despite, looking at people's social media, despite looking at people's Facebook or Instagram, you never really know what's going on, in the background. And even at the time, I didn't share it. I was very embarrassed. I was very embarrassed of where I was. But me personally, I thought, this is where it's going to get interesting. This is not the end of my story. This is just the beginning. This is where it gets real interesting. This is that part in, you guys have seen that movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, with Will Smith, when they fell asleep in a public bathroom with his son. I mean, it was over and over again. If you haven't seen the movie, you have to watch it. It's so good. But, he got kicked out of the hotel. His wife left him. He's a single dad. He can't pay for daycare. I mean, it was just, gosh, it was one thing after another. And he, became a multimillionaire, became very, very successful. But it wasn't him, succeeding that was interesting. It was all the things that got him there. And what I didn't realize was, my whole life, I was learning how to become an independent musician, right? And even though I was failing, I was succeeding at some things. And when I was failing at other things, I learned what not to do. They always talk about how Thomas Edison talks about how, I don't remember how many attempts it took him to create the light bulb. But, he said, I just know 8,147 ways to not create a light bulb. And he did it over and over again until he figured it out. And I feel like for me, that's exactly what I did. I went through thousands of ways to not be successful in the music industry as an independent, until I figured out a few ways that worked for me. And it doesn't mean that I know everything, and it doesn't mean that I'm doing everything perfectly. It just means that I've built a life doing something that I love. And for many of you, you just have to get through that. You have to get through that learning stage, that learning phase where you're going to make all the mistakes and you're going to learn what not to do. Because even though something works for me, it may not work for you. Something that works for another artist may not work for you, because you're different. You have a different personality. You have a different style of music. You're just completely different project altogether. So you can learn from other people and try it out, for you, but you can't get discouraged when something doesn't work. You just have to go, okay, that didn't work. So now I know one more way to not do it, but I'll figure it out. If you keep going, you eventually figure it out. And that whole thing about perspective, about going, okay, this is just where it gets interesting, just like in The Pursuit of Happiness, just like in Christine's story. This is where it gets interesting. And, I talk about, I've told everyone, a lot of the ways that I financed, getting my albums recorded and getting my music out. And believe me, it wasn't like I had all kinds of money. I'm talking about like having $100 to mix a song. I didn't have a whole lot, but I've done so many things. I had a hot dog stand. I used to sell hot dogs outside of grocery stores. I had an horchata stand. If you're Hispanic or Latin, you know what horchata is. It's like this rice drink. I had a nacho stand. I used to sell nachos. I did all kinds of random things. And when I share my story with people, what inspires them is not usually when I tell them, like, oh, look at who I'm working with now. Because, yes, I do work with a lot of cool people that have like platinum records and billions of plays on Spotify. And that's all fine and dandy. Who cares? What people find most interesting and what people get connected to me with, and that's fans and followers and even people that want to work with me. They like that I've created something successfully, but they love those stories that I tell. You know, I tell this story of when I used to go door to door. I used to sell my music knocking on people's doors. I used to actually sing on people's doorsteps. Sometimes there'd be little old ladies that maybe didn't have company in a long time. I'd go in and sing for them, or, I would, you know, sometimes jam with other people that were musicians, if they had a piano. It's pretty cool. But I remember this one time I had come up to this house and I had a little scooter. So I had this little electric scooter that I would ride on, and I had a bag. And in my bag, I had all my CDs. And I would go on my little electric scooter. I'd put the kickstand on. I'd walk up to each door. Sometimes it would be 115 degrees outside, or sometimes it would be so cold my body would burn. It'd be so cold. But I knocked on this house and they opened the door. And usually it would go something like, or I would tell them, hey, my name is Christine. I would love it if you take a listen to my album, or would you like to support an independent artist? But a big pit bull decided to run out towards me, and I saw it coming, and I knew there was just no stopping it. And I took off running. I had my bag of CDs and I'm running to my electric scooter. I had gotten a little, you know, I don't know, 10-second start ahead of him. I jumped on my scooter and it was electric, I cranked it up as far as I could, and it was just going. It was going as fast as I possibly could on the sidewalk. And that pit bull was gaining on me. And I just thought, this is it. This pit bull is going to rip me to shreds, because my scooter couldn't go any faster. So it's running and running and running. And I look to my left and there's like a guy, he has his like shirt off and he has a beer, and there's like an American flag, and he's wearing like, some suspenders, and he's just sitting there drinking his beer. And I thought, what a funny picture this has to be to him to watch this. This has to be hilarious. There's this girl, she's selling CDs, she's on a scooter, she's getting chased by a pit bull. I'm screaming my head off, by the way. I'm like, I'm gonna die. Somebody help me. It was just ridiculous. And I'm just flying down this sidewalk, and I'm like, all right, this is it. I'm done. This is how I go out. This is it. And the dog, obviously I survived. The dog turned around and left. I continued on with my day, going door to door and just, trying to be aware of, hey, are there any dogs around here? Let me make sure that I have this figured out a little bit, or planned a little better. And those types of stories, as I could have easily, and we talk about perspective, I could have easily looked at this and gone, my life sucks. It sucks to be 115 degrees outside. It sucks that I've spent my whole life perfecting a talent and a gift, and that I'm not making money from it, even though I feel like I should be. I feel like I'm good enough. I feel like I'm better than even a lot of the artists that are out there. I felt truly that I, deserved it. But I just hadn't figured it out yet. And that perspective, I could have looked at myself and gone, it's never going to work for me. It's not going to happen. I give up. I've been doing this so long. It's been years and years and years. I'm at $20,000 in debt. I can't even afford a jacket. I'm over here on an electric scooter getting chased by dogs. This is embarrassing. It's humiliating. I can't share this. At the time, I never shared it on social media. If I could go back in time, gosh, I would have shared it all. But I was mortified. I didn't want anybody to know. I didn't want people to know that I wasn't successful. I wanted to pretend that I was doing better than I was. I was very ashamed of where I was. But the perspective that kept me going was one thing that I always, prayed about before I went out, was I always said, thank you, God, that I have something that I love so much that I'll do something I hate for it. And what I mean by that is I love music so much that I'd be willing to go door to door in the, blistering cold, in the crazy heat, because a lot of people I know don't even know what they love. I don't know if you've ever asked people what their big dream is. What's your big dream? What do you really want to do? A lot of people don't know. A lot of people say, I don't know, I just want to be happy. And that's not an answer. A lot of people don't even know if they could be given the choice to choose what they want to be or to do. A lot of them don't even know. So one thing that I always gave thanks for was, thank you that I even know what I want, because that makes me in a better situation than a lot of other people. Thank you that I have a gift and a talent, because a lot of people wish that they had that, and I did. And so, and it doesn't mean that we deserved it. It means that we were just given it. We're very, very lucky to have music in our life. And I thought, man, that's, no one just works for a voice. Some people just have it or they don't. Or maybe you're a songwriter, or maybe you're a producer, create music, or maybe you're a great mixing engineer. But one that was a huge thing was just really focusing on my perspective, was going, okay, I have something I love so much that I have all these things I'd be willing to do, that it helps me get through the day, that I can survive being in this crazy heat. I can survive being in this crazy cold. I can, stand people, slamming doors in my face and yelling at me or bothering them as I go door to door. I can do this because I know this isn't the end of my story. This is not where my story ends. This is a chapter, and this is a very interesting chapter. And one day, maybe someone's going to make a movie out of my life, because I'm going to go through all these things, and then I'm going to show everyone that I stuck with this and that I became successful. And then maybe I'll inspire other people to stick with their dreams. Maybe I'll inspire other people to look at their life and change their perspective. So I kept that in my mind, is that this is not the end of my story. This is just where it gets interesting. And every amazing story and every amazing movie and every amazing book has problems. It has parts where the bad guy's about to win. It has parts where sometimes they win a little bit, and then the good guy comes back and gets, the glory at the end. I mean, there's always that. And I had to tell myself over and over again, that's what this is. This is a movie in the making. This is a great adventure story in the making. And when you can keep that perspective, then you can believe and live in faith that the outcome is going to be amazing. And when you keep that positive attitude and you keep that going on, it keeps you alive and it keeps you going. I spent almost 10 years without a home, without money, in debt, drinking into oblivion, because I didn't like my situation. And although it was terrible and it was torturous, I still stuck with my music. And there are many people out there that are fighting all of those things, depression and anxiety and our own mental demons, all our issues here. I think these are our bigger issues, and what's around us really externally, things can affect us. But if in our own heads we're telling ourselves that we suck and we can't do this, it's even more painful. But everyone's dealing with those demons. But perspective, always think about how you have a gift and you have a talent, you have something that can bring you out of this situation if you stick with it, if you stay true to who you are, you stay true to your talent, you stay true to your commitment to making your dream come true. And at the end of the day, if I had let, getting chased by that dog, sleeping on that kitchen floor, bathing in that gas station, people slamming doors in my face, if I had let that affect this, I would have never been able to create my external world, which has now become my dream, which has been to have a career where I make my living doing music. So I just want to encourage all of you, think about what perspective, how you can change and shift what you're thinking about your situation. And think about, if you're going through something hard right now, this is just where your story gets interesting. All right, guys, I'm Christine Morel. See you guys.